Hello, everybody. Of course, this is Reba Haas of Team Reba, Remax Metro, and also the show Open House with Team Reba, available on radio and podcast. Just wanted to, use a conversation that I had earlier today with a new client and provide a little Team Reba tip here. Hey, Jonathan, how are you? We got into a discussion. This is a first-time home buyer. Great family, can't wait to work with them, referred by a past client who was very happy with our services way back when, and got into a conversation. We had a copy of his pre-approval letter, and unless you pulled out your calculator and started running through some stuff, you didn't really know immediately if it was an FHA or conventional loan. And I started asking the customer if they knew which one it was, and lo and behold, actually he did not. And good. I'm glad you're doing great, Jonathan. Been fun seeing some of your photos lately. Looks like you guys are having a good time. Gorgeous as always out there at your place in Manette. Anyway, there's so much going on in the lending markets right now that it's really, I think, key that people understand exactly what kind of financing they're getting. And I think a lot of folks get intimidated sometimes by the discussion around financing. And it's funny. People will get online and start looking at houses a lot way before they really even think about the lending part, or they just kind of think the lending part magically occurs in some way. And frankly, understanding your lending is probably the number one thing that you should get before you even look for houses, because you can find online calculators, you can find all these different things that are out there that are like, yeah, you can get an idea of what you think you can buy. Not all of them are real accurate. Not all of them put in all the cost factors. They also don't know what your personal situation is in terms of your debt to income ratios, all this kind of stuff. There's many gotchas from the lending side. And one of the things that I think is important to really recognize is when you're looking at a comparison of FHA to conventional financing, the mortgage insurance involved. Because when you're getting an FHA loan, I agree, Jonathan, definitely do the lending part up front. FHA has now mortgage insurance, monthly mortgage insurance that never goes away. They used to have an option for it to go away, but years ago they changed that. And so there's a monthly payment towards mortgage insurance as well as an upfront mortgage insurance payment. Now, some people don't recognize this part because many lenders, to try and not overwhelm people with the cost of that upfront mortgage insurance, because that mortgage insurance, it's a second kind, because you have the monthly that's still required, but then there's this upfront one, and that's 1.75% of your loan amount. So think about that. You have a $300,000 loan, that's a significant amount. And what happens is they kind of bury it in your payment because they're saying, oh, well, we'll just finance it, and then it's amortized, so it's less. But the thing is now you're doubly paying for this mortgage insurance, and you may not even realize that you're doing it. And you may have wanted the option to at least talk with your agent about, well, are there options for trying to negotiate, some closing costs that maybe will help you pay for those things. So I just ended up having a very long conversation with a new lender to me. I know who the company is, but it's a new lender in terms of the loan officer contact. And, when I called him, by the way, people, will you please listen to your voicemail messages? Don't just call people back because you saw you had a missed call. If you see there's a voicemail, please listen, because he didn't listen. And so he didn't realize who I was. And he called me up. We started having all these questions. And he thought I was a listing agent. So he's being kind of cagey about the conversation. And I don't know, he hasn't listened to my voicemail, so I just assume, like, why are you being so cagey? And finally he asked me, he's like, wait, who do you represent? He's like, do you represent this party? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And because he was like, yeah, you have all this very personal, private information about him. I'm like, yeah, because we get to know our clients really, really well. And so my clients, the amount of trust you need to have with a real estate professional who's doing this for you, it's really important to know, can they talk finances? Not because we're trying to act like the loan officer. Not saying that anywhere close. But dang it, you should be working with somebody who at least knows the lingo. Because not only do I have this conversation where I had to press this particular person on the conversation about the credit scoring and why there was a choice between conventional and FHA. Because again, FHA mortgage insurance is permanent. If they hold on to this house 10, 20, 30 years, they're still paying on it. Doesn't matter if they get to a 20% equity position or not. Conventional typically gives you that option that when you get to 20%, now you have the opportunity to later on, when you get the value there, to have it removed. You have to take some other steps, of course, like go get an appraisal taken, and that costs a little bit of money, but even if it's $600-700 and you can get rid of a $200 a month payment, why wouldn't you do it? Right? Unless you're planning on selling the house during that period of time, then it's dumb. But other than that, there's no reason why not, right? So why I say it's really important to be able to have an agent who knows how to discuss these things is because on the other side, I'm the listing agent on a house right now where I have a brand new freaking agent who doesn't understand discount points. And we're talking about trying to negotiate a transaction between our two parties, and she doesn't know what the flip she's talking about. I have to ask her to go and get permission from her customer to forward to me the content of the response from their lender, because I had to walk her through. Go and find out what, can they pay points? If the rate has gone to here, are points possible? If this guy's payment sensitive, is there something we can work out? Let's get into the nitty gritty of this. And, all I know is that she furiously wrote notes about all the things I was saying and then parroted them to the lender, who, thank God, of course, knows what I'm talking about. And then that person gave her stuff, and she had a bunch of notes, and she's got whatever email. And then she gets me on the phone, and she's like, I don't really know exactly what this means, and I want to go pound my head against a brick wall, because that's not helpful. It's not helpful at all if she doesn't understand what it means. Because we can negotiate, we can work it out if we understand the playing field. But when you're working with this person who isn't even familiar enough with the language, who do you have really representing you? So all I can say is, when you're looking at doing a transaction or even just having your house refinanced, there's so many questions that you should be asking these professionals who are now taking a very good look at your very personal financial information. And you really, really, really should understand what you're talking about. Don't just trust it to the professionals. Get educated on it. We have article after article and show after show that talks about these things. What you need to know, questions you need to ask, understanding the terminology. It's not as terrifying as people seem to think that it is. And that's what's so funny is people don't, like if I'm asking the questions, in their mind, their amygdala goes off as soon as there's a bunch of terminology that they don't understand. They kind of shut off. It's that fight, flight, or freeze. So their brain just kind of freezes, and they're like, well, you sound like you know what you're talking about, so I'm just going to pretend I do. And really, that is when you should start saying, you know what, I'm not sure I understand what that term is. Could you please explain that to me? There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if the person on the other end of that call or in front of you can't explain it to you in a way that you understand, either do more research and or maybe you're talking to the wrong professional. Maybe they aren't a professional. Maybe they're licensed or they work at a bank. By the way, we have plenty of shows where we talk about that too. Who you talk to at a big bank does not have to have the same education level as someone who's actually a licensed loan officer. So there's a bunch of differences between all of these. So it's just super, super important, you guys, to understand basic finances. Understand how interest rates impact you. Understand mortgage insurance, if it's going to be a part of whatever your package is. There's different ways that it goes. There's upfront mortgage insurance. There's split premiums. There's monthly plus an upfront. I mean, there's so many different iterations of these things. Typically, there's about 4. We actually have shows about mortgage insurance that we're happy to share. But in fact, maybe I'll go find one of them and tag it underneath this post so you guys can listen to it. But I mean, I'm sitting here within a 1 hour period, 2 different conversations. Me on the listing agent side on one side, looking at this buyer agent going, we could probably get your client and my client to be happy if you could at least understand what we're talking about. And on the other side, I've got a brand new buyer client who doesn't even know that his lender may have been sending him a direction that's going to cost him a shit ton of money over time. Using technical term there, shit ton of money. FHA permanent mortgage insurance is a shit ton of money over time, 30 years. He gave me an example that it might be like $257 a month. Calculate that over 30 years. Especially if it's not even necessary over a period of time, or we can get it maybe negotiated in a deal. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could do around this, but you really have to know that the people working for you know what the hell they're talking about. And you need to understand what they're talking about so you know when to call BS. So anyway, I'm going to stop my little tangent because I realized I started going off on a tangent and not just being educational here. But if you have questions around any of this type of stuff, if you want to work with somebody who knows what the heck they're talking about, please give us a call. My direct number is 206-910-3429. You can get a hold of my whole team at info@teamreba.com. Or if you want to do a private direct to me, it's Reba, R-E-B-A, @teamreba.com. So anyway, y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you everyone who's been watching and who will watch this. I appreciate it. And I'll thank you for the thumbs up and hearts and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Jose, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, Ann. But yeah, by all means, if you have any questions, please get a hold of me. Me and Eric are more than happy to answer any questions that you have around any of this kind of stuff and help you out. Okay, so take care. Bye.